Alright, so this is the notes I had when scripting my Trizuka video. You can kind of see the parts that became each one. And so we're basically just doing that, but with Chump. Now, there's going to be something a little bit different with Super Chump compared to Trizuka. So this video is going to be a little bit different. And the reason why is because there's not one Chump rework. Nice, Discord copy didn't work. There's 3. We are reworking it 3 times. So we are doing a location/utility Chump, a big/powerful Chump, aka kind of your standard buff, and your super jump recall Chump. So we are doing 3 reworks for this. That's the plan. And the other thing is, obviously, talking about the issues of this special would have to be completely different. In my Zuka video, in fact, let me pull up my Zuka video. Give me a moment to find it. And I'll kind of go through how the video formatting went and what I want to change. Because, you know, obviously, I'm making a video that's similar. Nice, thank you, future me. Or past me. I'm not trying to copy how I did this video. You know, it's the same format. Obviously, it's another special rework, but we're trying to do it in a different way. So I want to kind of show how I'm going to make this video different. So we're going to get into that. So, you know, this video, for instance, spent, like, that's what? About half the video going over the issues and goals of changes. This was a much larger portion of the video, because there were a lot of issues I wanted to talk about with Trizuka. But for Chump, like, what is there to say, really? The special doesn't really have any issues. Like, that's the thing. There isn't really any. The special is just weak. Right? So this section has to change. So this will probably be, like, why 3 reworks. So I want to talk about why there isn't any real issues and the special is weak. I want to talk about 3 different, like, mini buffing paths, ideas, and then basically talk about why I'm doing 3. And then this section's basically gone. There's no goals. I just want there to be 3 distinct ways. And that's kind of the main thing for this video, is that these 3 have to all be different. I barely want any changes I do for one to happen to the other. So this video is mostly going to be focused on the actual reworks, because there's going to be 3 of them in their own different ways. Now, obviously, some buffs could happen twice, but I want most of the buffs to happen different times. So this will be kind of how I start the video, and then I'll go into these. And then one thing to know with this scripting process that I do, because it's a bit different, once I actually script the video, this could all change. Like, when I'm actually talking about it, if it doesn't seem to flow well, then maybe the entire format changes. But, you know, that's basically where we're at. So I think the easiest way to start the Chump buffs is to just do the normal one first, like a bigger, more powerful one, because these are, like, pretty easy. In fact, I probably have something down here, because I have a lot of patch changes ideas in here, just to get my ideas on a page for potential videos, and Chump is probably on here. Yeah. Like, these are all ideas I've already thought of before, which I can just paste. But not all of these would go here. So, like, this location thing would probably go here. And I think everything else fits in here. So we're going to split these up. So this is going to be, like, no additional utility. We're not going to make it locate or have a disruptor effect or let you jump in with the chumps. This is purely stat changes, right? These are purely just making the chumps better. So I've already kind of thought about these. This is one I have to think about more. This might go somewhere else, so I'm going to put it down here. This is a landing hitbox idea, which might have to... I might put this in the super jump one, because I'm thinking if a player could potentially be one of the super chumps, having a hitbox on landing kind of incentivizes people to not camp the jumps directly, which makes it easier to super jump in. So this change synergizes more with the recall, you know, so I would probably put it here. And then this one is obviously, like, utility. And then these are just bigger, more powerful stat changes, right? So this is a size and HP increase to make them better at body blocking. So we would go from there. So these are what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create 3 separate visions for the special. Yeah. So I think this on its own is a good bit, but it's not enough. The hard part here is I don't really know what to tweak for the damage. Like, in theory, we could just go, like, from 3570 to 4080, which I might do. But I want to think about real quick, like, I'm going to actually pull this up in-game. What would be the perk of doing 4080 damage numbers? Like, if I do, and this is something I think about whenever I increase a damage number in a patch video, what is the, like, actually going to be affected by the number change? Like, is it going to mean something? And with a special like Chump, I think what's really important is that the damage number helps combos. Particularly, I think it needs to help combos with the super Chump weapons they're already on. So, like, am I increasing a combo for the actual Chump weapon? Why is the special censored in the title? Because Twitch censors the word Chump. I don't know why. We won't figure it out, so, I don't know. The super jump one, my idea with the super jump one is design a Chump special where you can choose to jump in with the super chumps. Like, when you launch the special, like, my idea is, like, in fact, I'll just write this down right now, but I want to get to it later, right? Can now press ZR to jump when launching chumps, or R to not jump and launch them normally, right? That's the idea. Yeah, literally, you launch yourself with the cannon. This has the delay it normally does to launch chumps for a punish window. You know, to keep this from being a panic option. We're just talking about chumps today. I'm not going to do every special in the game. I only want to talk about specials that I actually want to, like, full-on rework. There are some, like, whale that I don't care about enough to change, and there are some that I don't think need, like, a whole rework for their own video. So I did a poll on my YouTube channel about which ones I'm actually, like, really thinking about changing. So. Anyway. So let's get in-game for a second, and let's change the music to something more chill, because this is kind of loud. Just do, like, one of the story mode themes. I always like to put these on in the background. Right. Do fear the implication of being able to access an accessible enemy spawn. We'll get to that. Let's focus on the just more powerful chumps for now. Let's keep it simple, and then we'll get to the more unique reworks, right? So what does 35 to 40 damage do with any of these? Does it help any of them, right? The Clash and Zap are 30 damage guns. These are the same. So these are 30 damage combos, and then this is 28. This is 28 and 30, and then this is 40 plus. Could do a ton. So Dynamo is probably, like, the most helpful one in theory. Because Dynamo could potentially combo better with 40 damage than 35, given how, like, variable the damage does. So, like, Dynamo would benefit from this, absolutely. It makes sense to change this to buff Dynamo's Chump combo, 100%. But what about the 30 damage ones? Like, does it actually matter if I'm having a 35 damage number, or having a 40 damage number in comparison? I don't think it matters for these two. Though it would matter for Clash. Clash does a 60 damage direct hit. So Clash would actually have a direct plus outside Chump combo if it dealt 40 damage. Okay, so Clash has a reason for this. I guess that would technically apply to all of these then, huh? Like, every 60 damage would combo. So these would both combo. 2 shots with an outside Chump hit. Plus direct. This would have further kill range. CDS is really the only one that gets the short end of the stick, really. Because CDS would not do 60 damage with 2 shots. It wouldn't have a combo. I don't think CDS really gets much out of this at all. It doesn't... The fall-off doesn't even really matter. The fall-off kind of combos, I feel. But I guess, Well, I guess technically the fall off there wouldn't combo, right? Like, there's 3 bullets, that wouldn't combo. So I guess CDS technically gets, like, its fall off range combos a little bit. So you can, like, fall off 3-shot someone and the explosion will hit them. So I think 40 damage makes sense then. Okay. And then bow is both, right? Bow is, like, 28 and 30. But I think having, like, 2 arrows plus a chump combo would be pretty good. So yeah, okay, I'm a fan of 40. I'm a fan of 40 damage. It clearly helps a lot of the weapons, right? So we'll do, like, outside damage increased from 35 to 40. Inside damage increased from 70 to 80. And the inside damage one is an obvious buff one, which is why I didn't talk about it as much, which is, this will make it combo with lethal bombs, outside hit, even if you have a sub defense. Though I guess it, like, the 70 hit. Because, you know, if you got hit by a 70 and you got hit by a bomb, but the bomb gets, like, sub defense, it does, like, 29 damage, it doesn't combo. So this is for bomb combos with bomb defense. This is for combos with all chump weapons, even CDS fall off, right? So we can write that there. So now we got a decent pattern here. So what do we do, like, for, is this enough at this point is now the question I'd have. Like, would this be good enough for Super Chump? Like, if Chump got all of these changes, would I be like, okay, yeah, the special doesn't need anything else? Like, that's what I'm thinking about now. Like, is this enough for the first rework? I think it might be. Because I think Chumps on zones are already pretty solid, so it'd definitely be fine on zones. Maybe the ranked modes would still be a little weaker, but I feel like this is enough to be, like, functional, you know? Like, this is probably good enough. But I think I'd do one other small change, just to be safe, which would be detonation time decreased from 4 to 3.5 seconds. Small thing. Just lets the, like, explosion buff we just did happen a bit more easily. Has a little bit less time to break the chumps. And that's where I'd be like, it's fine. You know, just a little bit faster for the chumps to blow up, give a little bit more of a window, and I think that's probably fine. So that would be where I'd start, you know. I'd probably start with this rework, get all these changes in. That's, like, talking about it in general. Oh yeah, I should probably also, Specials Week, talk about specific balance, find in zones, and utility it provides. See, this is something that also happens in scripting. I'll go down the list and I'll be like, wait, this is something I should mention earlier. So I write this here. Like, yeah, I should probably mention where exactly chumps are at, like where they do have usefulness and what they do earlier, so that I can just focus on the changes here. Okay. So let's get to the hardest one on this list, which is probably the location/utility. So, inevitably, I want some of these buffs to go here. But we'll have to get to that later. So, one thing I'm thinking of doing is changing... Oh, thank you so much for the tier 1, by the way. Also, I'm going to just write a pinned comment. There. And Twitch won't pin it. If there's any mods in my chat, please pin that. Thank you. Anyway, 1 second. Okay. So, really what I'm thinking with the utility for Chump is, like, what else do I want Chump to do, right? The location one is, like, an obvious change. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna change this. This is going to be a much steeper buff. This is going to be 3 seconds. Because we're giving a lot of utility to the explosions. And I want this buff to be said first because it's a repeat. We're giving a lot of utility to the explosions. So I want the explosions to, like, be able to tag people more easily. So what I'm looking at is what other utility could I give this special? Like, what more could the Chump's either landing or explosion reasonably contribute effect-wise? And I think the obvious one that comes to mind is probably Toxic Mist. Like, should it have some form of mist effect on people? That's kind of what I would consider. And, like, what would be fair? So I could have it that when they get hit by the Chumps, they also get, like, Toxic Misted for a few seconds. Or, like, the Chumps leave behind a Toxic Mist. So, that's potentially something I could do. The other idea is I could have some Chumps locate people and some Chumps deploy the Toxic Mist effect, but I think that would make it feel more random. Like, you wouldn't have control over which Chumps do which effect. So I feel like that would make the special feel more RNG based and out of the player's control. So I don't want to do that. So you would kind of have to stack the effects, which you could do. The other change idea I had is you could have the Toxic Mist effect just replace some of the Chumps entirely, but then I think its paint would be too RNG based, because you'd have some landing spots that are just paint. It would also kind of look weird, I think, compared to how the special looks now. I think that would be a little bit, like, off. The other thing is you could have, like, a giant Toxic Mist field around the Chumps, but I feel like that would be way too broken, even if it was, like, significantly weaker than actual Toxic Mist. So I don't think that would work either. Make the Chumps ink mines. I mean, them locating you and still maintaining damage kind of just does make it a mine. 2 types of Chumps. That's what I just talked about, why I don't like it. So I think what I would do is another getting hit effect. Like a disruptor effect instead. And keep the duration really short. Like just 1.5 seconds. Very small punishment, though. I think that would be fair. So we can go with that. Is there any other really, like, bit of utility I could give the sub? Like, this kind of has all the use cases I could possibly think of. But I'm trying to think, is there any other unique effect I can give it to do? Because I feel like this isn't enough. Yeah, I could give it a player effect, actually. Like, the ink tank refill is a good idea, but not for enemy. Like, obviously for you. It could be like if you get hit by your own chump, it does something. That could be an interesting way to go about it. But what perk would I give the player? Increase the number of decoys? There's 9 of them. That feels completely unnecessary. Height boost? That would break the game and out of bounds. Movement buff. Cooler already does that. We're overlapping with something that already exists. That's also why I don't want to do healing, because we made Rain do that. So this has to be different. Ink tank refill is the obvious one here, I guess. Like, that was what was suggested. But that could be, like, you know, stand in the chumps so every player can throw an extra bomb and you just have a mini bomb rush. Like, I don't want that. Smoke screen? That's Screen's thing. It's gotta be unique. And it's gotta make sense. Like, that's the thing. Healing in an ink storm makes sense. What would make sense for getting hit by your own super chump? Like, what would that do that makes any form of sense? You can see enemies through the wall. That's what the location effect already does. All players get quick super jump. See, that makes more sense, right? Like a QSJ bump kind of makes sense because the chumps are jump related. My god, that's hard to say. So that makes some sense, but that's still something Cooler already does. Now, the other idea could be a stealth jump change, but 1, most people have stealth jump already, and 2, what do you do for people that already have stealth? How would that help them? Charge 10% of the special? That doesn't make sense, though. Why would it do that? Makes them shiny and nothing else, like terrorization in Pokemon. Low gravity would break out of bounds. Can't do that. And again, it does make sense. Think about it. Like, what would make sense for the Chumps to do? What would Chumps give you that's, like, intuitive? Like, oh, that makes sense. Completely hide marker. Yeah, we could remake S1 Stealth Jump. Like, that could be a thing. Maybe if you jump in... Ooh, that's an interesting idea. Hold on, I came up with something. Like, what if you super jump into a... Like, you know, Chumps has an area. Let me show you real quick what I'm thinking. Let me illustrate it. So, like, you see how Chumps has this ring here around it? Like, what if you jumped in this ring sometime before the Chumps landed, you would have S1 Stealth. But it has to be, like, in the zone in that time. Right? So it wouldn't be, like, a buff effect. Yeah, you did write this down. I didn't see it. People who jump into the Chump area get perfect S1 Stealth. Yeah, that makes sense. But is that balanced? Is that fair? Feel like that'd be better for the super jump rework? It could be. But I feel like that'd be... Like, I could still give it to both. Beacon does that too. No, with Beacon, there's still a radius if you break it. You can still see it. It's not completely invisible. We're talking, you cannot see the landing marker at all. You cannot see it. Is that fair? The Chump launcher could be a mini beacon. True, but Bubble does that. You could give the Chumps themselves stealth jump. That's true. That could be an interesting bit of utility. Like, the Chumps themselves have stealth, so it's harder to tell where the Chumps are going to land. But is that, like, a positive change, or is that going to be more annoying? You could have the landing Chumps give a point sensor effect. Yeah, but that'd be too similar to Wave, in my opinion. That'd be like a Wave Breaker thing. I like the stealth jump idea, but it needs to be tied together. It's not like... It's still too situational, right? Like, how are teammates have such a small window to jump in? So maybe this is a good change, but for the other buff idea. Maybe that's here, right? When jumping into the Chump radius, you have Chump radius. All Chumps have Splatoon have stealth jump, including your jump. Like, we can do that. That's fine. But that doesn't help here. But this fixes the intuitive problem, because this would just be, oh, okay, you just jump with your own Chumps, right? Like, you don't have to worry about it. You just kind of go in with the Chumps. So there wouldn't be any, like, intense coordination need. But that doesn't, like, help this. So I feel like the only way that jump thing feels intuitive is if it's on the super jump recall. And that way it doesn't have to be S1 stealth jump. I mean, maybe just getting hit by the Chumps to get a buff isn't something that we can do. At all. Like, maybe that's just not possible. Like, it might just not make intuitive sense for any buff. Other overlaps exist? I'm not denying that, but it has to have, like... If it's gonna overlap, I want it to be in a way that makes a lot of sense. I don't want it to just overlap because this buff would be fun. I want it to be like, this makes sense for Chump, to the point where it overlapping is not a big enough downside. Maybe like Bomb Sniffer? A Bomb Sniffer effect could be interesting. I like that idea. Like, maybe the Chump user just gets a form of Bomb Sniffer for, like, 10 seconds. Like, that could be an interesting way to buff it. It could just be, like, a bonus effect for the Chump user. I like the idea of that. It's still, like, kind of distinct. Like, it doesn't really mesh with Chumps too well, but it's enough to where, like, it would be, like, a cool factor. Like, oh my god, you're referencing that S1 thing and it makes sense. Which would kind of offset the fact that, like, it would kind of offset the fact of, what's it called? It would offset the fact that it doesn't synergize as well. Popping Chump early gives the location effect. I don't like that idea. I get the purpose of that, but I want breaking Chumps to be like I don't want it to be a negative decision. I don't want to have a situation where like a player can't ever pop the Chump. So like if it did locate you, it'd have to be like real small. Like you'd have to be located for like 1 second, very close to the Chump or something. Okay, I think I got an idea. I want to go with the Bomb Sniffer idea. Gives the Chump user S1 Bomb Sniffer for 10 seconds. Same duration as the cooldown. Breaking a Chump within 2 creates a mini point sensor similar to Wavebreaker's startup that has a radius of 1 meter and locates for 1.5 seconds. It would have to be like this small. So would this be worth it, right? If it's this small, is this still worth being here? I like this buff, because we have a 10-second... Like, you guys know how Chumps have the 10-second cooldown anyway? Like, if I pull this up. This could just be the duration of your bomb defense timer. Or not your bomb defense, your bomb sniffer, that's what it's called. Right? Right here. That's your duration on the top right. Once that's done, you don't have bomb sniffer. That's easily intuitive. Though the only odd thing about that is, in theory, like, look, if I launch Chumps at the end, now I would have no bomb sniffer timer. But I think that's fine. Decreasing special gauge. That's a very dangerous buff. To decrease special gauge. Like, it's a cool idea, but it's like very... That's a big, big effect to put in the game. I don't know if I want that effect in the game, period. I think this might be enough, though. This might be good enough on its own. That's what I'm trying to think of. Also, this should be here. This makes sense to be listed in this order. No, shooting your own Chumps I don't want to do. Too much griefing potential. I like the idea of that, but it's just too much grief. Like, the second shooting your own teammates' Chumps becomes a thing you can do, it's, like, way too easy to just, like, mess up intentionally or have a teammate grief you, intentionally or unintentionally. Like, that's too much rage moments. I don't want it to be upsetting. You want Chump meta? Yeah. It fit really well with this meta. Had an idea, Athen had an idea for you can't build special while you're in Toxic Mist. I don't know if that would work or not, but I like the idea. Okay, I think we're good on this. I think this is powerful enough. Right? I think this is enough. Like this feels good enough. Can you go into squid form with chumps already? Like while launching them? I don't think so. No, you can't. Oh, you can't substrafe though. That's interesting. You can't substrafe in chumps. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'd love to see some visuals on these. That could help for the video. Okay, I think I'm good with this. I like this utility. I feel like this concept is fully fleshed out. Like, you can see other bombs a little bit better. It locates enemy players. It can apply a mini Toxic Mist effect. Like, breaking the chumps has a new downside. And they explode a bit faster. This feels like we gave them a lot more to do. So now the question I want to have, is this now too bloated? Is this like... Is this too much? These sound OP? I don't think they sound overpowered. Like, these are all tiny duration mini buffs. Like, this is an S1 ability that no one ever ran. The only one that's scary is this. This is the one I would think about cutting. It would also make it less bloated, because, like, these are both location-orientated, and this is the location of bombs. This one is technically, like, the least fitting, and it's also the only one that's, like, kind of scary to put in the game. So if there's anything, this is the effect I would cut. Oh, sorry. I don't have the dock up. This effect. I would consider cutting this entirely. In fact, I think I will cut this entirely. Also, what is it? But now I feel like this might not be... Sorry, I was saying, I like the idea of this being another location-based special because Wave is, like, the only one of those we have. So I like that there's another, like, location one. This feels like it doesn't step over Wave. It's, like, its own unique effect to this. So I like that. Because Wave is more, like, combo-based, I want to say. Especially if it was buffed. So I feel like this is more utility-based. Between, like, the paint and body blocking and location. So it feels, like, distinct enough while adding, like, another location tool to the game. Yeah, 1 meter is 1 line. Let me replace that. It's, like, really small. Because I want players to be able to break it without being located. It should just take more effort. I'm trying to think of, like, what extra can I do for this? But if you could detonate chumps by pressing the special button again, it just removes all counterplay then. Like, as soon as the enemy team goes to shoot them down, I just make them blow up and GG. Viewer count is fluctuating like crazy? That's weird. Hopefully I'm not getting botted or something. I don't see anything too suspicious. Maybe it's just Twitch bugging out. Yeah, there's not a bunch of weird names in my chat. I think it's fine. It might just be Twitch. That or my stuff just isn't updating. I'll check it real quick to make sure, because I've heard that's happening more. That seems stable for me. Okay, we'll leave it for now. trying to think. I might just copy, like, something small from this, I think. My ads are not maxed out, actually, no. I did increase them, but they're not maxed. I don't know if this is enough. I feel like it's not. That's a thing. I could also give people bomb defense. Is the fresh season video delayed? It's this Monday. It did come out really late, yeah. Mostly because, like, I just didn't want to make it. I'm gonna be honest, guys. This is, like, the least fun video I've ever put out on the channel. I tried to make it not too much of a downer, but, like, it was not fun to do. But I had to... I said I'd review every season, so I'm reviewing every season. I'm thinking of adding a bit of sub-defense, actually. But I don't think that would make sense. Can you jump into Chumps as a buff? That's what this will be. I did not say last season was the worst season. At least I don't think I did. I should not have said last season was worse than Chill 2022. I'm almost positive I didn't say that. That would make no sense. Yeah, I think I'll just do like a small extra buff. Like we'll just do outside explosion radius increased by 5%. Or 10%. Like literally just keep it something small. But this does tie into the point sensor effect here. This makes it more likely. So I think that's fair. And we could just go with that. I feel like that's good enough. Like, this is a little bit of a stat change. But, like, both these stat changes make sense. In fact, this would have to go earlier. But, like, I think these make sense. They play into the utility. Like, both of these effects make these better. So I like that. Okay. Super Jump Recall. So you can press ZR to jump when launching the chumps, or R to not jump and launch them. Normally, this has the delay it normally does to launch jumps for a punish window. When landing, the chumps now has a hitbox equal to the inside explosion that does 35 damage upon impact. Makes sense, you want people to stay away from the jumps. Make people stay away. Stay away from your jump. When jumping into the chump radius, all chumps have stealth jump, including your jump. Again, makes sense. So now, there's two problems here, right? One, how do we make chumps... Well, I guess chumps already feel more impactful because of the stealth in this, when you don't jump with them. But here's the main problem, right? When jumping in with your own chumps. Here's the question I want to pose to you guys. How do we decide where the player lands? This is the main problem with this, right? Because look at this radius, right? If my radius is here... Look at how spread out the chumps are. If I'm super jumping with them, the difference between landing like here and here and here is big. So like, I can't have it be random. But here's the other problem. If I have the super jump radius to the center, which is probably where everyone is gonna go right now, now all of a sudden every time someone jumps with the super chumps, it's way more obvious where they're gonna land and you can camp it. Because now you know they're going to land approximately in the middle, and then you just camp the middle of it. So how do we fix that problem? Yeah, so opening the map is a good idea. Let me change it so I can do that, right? Like, you select it on the map. That could be interesting. But then it, like, the part of the perk of chumps is that they're really fast to launch. So now you're gonna slow it down drastically. Because now instead of just pressing like R stick, aim, ZR, I'm R, map, A, and then ZR. So you'd have to change how it's entirely. Like, instead now, opening the chumps would open the map. And you would click on the map. But then you can't click anywhere on the map, so would you just zoom in on the mini-map? How would that look to look around? Basically, what I'm saying is it creates too many problems. You can't have it move mid-jump. That's not fair, because the markers are there immediately. Like, you see when the markers are there, those can't move. So you can't aim mid-jump. Because that would be unfair. You could decrease the radius and let it be random? Yeah, but you'd have to decrease the radius drastically for it to actually matter. So I don't think that's a good solution either. You could jump to the chumps with your name on it? That's random, though. How are you gonna know which ones are your name? The game does it on TC, so it's fair. Okay, that's a good point. This is a bad idea since you can access inaccessible areas. Yeah, that's why this is gonna have to be another recall special. This is gonna be a recall. But we'll get to that later. First, we need to make this happen in the first place. When the map, select a location you launch with the chumps. But then we make chumps a global range special, and I don't want to make it a global range special. So you could change it so, like, it's just a radius around you. Like, say this circle I'm kind of trying to draw poorly with the motion controls. Like, this is where you can launch and you just click to launch it. But then you would still be in the center of your chumps every time you launched it. That would just have the same problem. You would have to select the chumps and then select where you land. Wouldn't this bring back clam cheese and stuff? Again, this is why this would have to be a recall special. You would not, like, it would only be you jump over there. And since it's a recall special, rules of recall apply, you can't throw clams. So you could super jump there with a power clam, but you couldn't score it. Two inputs. Yeah, but we already have two inputs to decide if you want to go with the chumps or not, because there has to be an option to not go with the chumps entirely in order to make this mix-up make any sense. So now we have to have two inputs, and then those inputs have two inputs. That's way too much. See, this is the fun part about making these rebalancing videos. There's a lot of ideas, and then you go, oh shit, but this wouldn't work because of that, and you have to figure out how to work around that. Welcome to game balancing. You constantly just create new problems. I mean, drop roller wouldn't save you from getting camped. But we could give it like a buff drop roller on landing. Like you roll and you roll like 50% further on your landing. Alright, I've stalled long enough. Do you guys want to hear my solution? You guys want to hear what I would think? Here's what I think. I think you have to have the user land in the center radius. For two reasons. One, it removes the need for unnecessary input. It keeps it random. But most importantly, there's already kind of an indicator for the center. Like, this is a really nice function of seeing exactly where you would land. You know, I'd be here. Right? So I think you need it to be in the middle. So my solution is instead of buffing, it's kind of similar to the drop roller idea. Instead of changing that, buff your landing somehow. Super jump splashdown landing, but remove splashdown. If splashdown wasn't in the game, that would be a perfect fix. Actually perfect. But unfortunately, splashdown is in the game. Temporary invulnerability. Can't do that. If you're invincible on your landing, there's no counterplay. So here's what I'm thinking. What if we revisit the Splatoon 1 stealth jump idea? Your jump doesn't have a marker. No, not armor. Armor removes counterplay for some weapons. Like a blaster just can't camp landing now, or a charger. That's bullshit. Can't do that. Actually, let's keep the buffs and make it longer. Let's make this like a super buffed drop roller. So this is what I'd do. So it's Splatoon 1 stealth jump, but it's not as bullshit. Like, even though you can't see the marker, you know where they're gonna land in the center. So you have a general idea of where to shoot and throw stuff, but it's not guaranteed. You don't know for sure, and because you can choose not to jump with the chumps, there's a possibility that the other team will just go and shoot the middle of it, worried you'll jump in, and you just never jump in and they just wasted their time. And then I like the drop roller buff, because that way if you land, there's a punish window, but you can roll really far away and you get buffed and you have a chance to fight back. Now we have to add the recall time. So now's another question. What do we do for the duration of the special? How long does a player get to be over here, and what do they get to do? Do they just get full access to their kit? Like, I would say yes. That gives them a way to separate it, right? It's unique if they use their kit. Like, we don't have a special like that. That sets it apart from caster. Like, you only get one kind of movement, but now you can, like, actually fight with your full kit. You can use your sub and stuff. I think what I would do is make the, like, what my brain goes to is the same duration thing, this, on the top right. But then it's the same problem. If I launch chumps really late, I jump in, I've landed, now I have, like, 2 seconds before I recall back. So this recall time wouldn't synergize with the cooldown. So I think the cooldown has to be reworked entirely. So I would say cooldown is changed. Now is an 8-second cooldown. Now is a 7-second cooldown that starts upon your landing and recalls you after it is done. Cooldown is not changed if you don't jump with it. So if you don't jump with it, then it's not changed. It's still a 10-second cooldown. If you do jump, then it's a 7-second cooldown that starts when you land in. Because it takes about 3 seconds to launch the chumps and land. That way, if you launch it late, there's also a downside. Like, I wait 5 seconds, I launch, and then I have a 7-second cooldown. So that means an even longer time. And then, yeah, of course, this is a recall special. And then these are the buffs to the chumps themselves. So I'd have to specify, you know, specify next 2 buffs always apply. And there we go. I think that fits. I think that's a good enough change. Cooldown start when you press the right stick? Yeah, it would have to, like, change when you actually launch it. That or I just make the cooldown after you launch chumps. But that's a good point. It would, like, decrease and then go back up, which would be a bit weird. But I'm kind of okay with that. They could just rework that UI-wise visually. In fact, I'll note that UI rework for above. So we'll add that. Like, it gets a little bit of a UI rework. So that the cooldowns can fit. They'd have to change that a bit. It'd be unique. Okay. Having it start on launch for all reworks? That would just nerf it if you don't jump with the chumps. I don't like that. Actually, I'll take you up on that. That's fair. Couldn't you just hold chumps forever? Yeah, you could. But here's the thing about holding a special forever. It's already a thing. You can already do that with this in Storm. So, you know, it'd just be the same thing. And cooler, yeah. So that's fine, because that exists. So no qualms there. I think I'm good, though. It's hardest to tell if this buff is enough, because we really don't know how powerful getting someone to jump in anywhere behind would be. Like, we don't know how good this would be. But I think paired with these two buffs, I think it's fine. I think we're good. This feels like 3 distinct super chump buffs that I like. And then I would script the video. And, you know, maybe there would be changes before the video goes live. But, like, that's the process for some of the rebalancing videos. That's what I go through. This is typically the process. And this one was fairly quick. This took 50 minutes. That's a lot faster than the one I did for Trizuka. Trizuka took 2 to 3 hours to come up with, because I kept running into problems. But, like, you know, that's a bit of an insight into the process I get before I script these videos. So hopefully that was fun to watch.